Welcome to Criminals Hate Me. It is the podcast that criminals don't want you to watch. And let me tell you, if you're a criminal in the Noah Presgrove case, you definitely don't want to watch this one. Because I'm laying out some certain people here tonight that were from the party that have some explaining to do. Okay? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Okay, so basically what we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to lay out the timeline. You know, I've did some visuals here and some graphics here just to kind of give you a bigger picture of the timeline of the crime scene of where Noah's body was found that morning. Okay, we're going to start there. We're going to lay it all out. And then I'm going to break down certain parts and pieces of what happened, okay? Because I went back through Kaden's 2-hour police interview and listened to that, and then when I was doing some other research and digging, I just kept thinking to myself, like, something's not adding up about the timeline, okay? So we'll get into all that, guys. So watch the whole video because it's a very important video. And it's gonna prove to you without a shadow of a doubt that someone is lying. I don't know who's lying. I have my suspicions, but someone is lying because the timeline debunks a lot of stuff because there wasn't enough time, okay, for a lot of this stuff to happen. But the problem is that people have details about stuff that it makes you wonder, how in the hell do they know that? Okay? When the timeline doesn't fit. So anyway, so I'll explain. Just watch till the very end, guys, so I can break it all down so you can fully understand my point, because it's a very important point. Okay? And I've never seen anyone lay it out like this before. Okay, so let's just lay out the basic timeline, and then I'll start breaking down each section. Okay, so Tyler Hardy was one of the 911 callers. Okay, you had Tyler Hardy, and then you had another Tyler that called 911. Okay, so Tyler Hardy, that's the official report, and per himself, he was the first on scene at 5:53 a.m. Okay, and that's pretty widely known in news reports and all that. And I think according to law enforcement, it's well established that Tyler Hardy was the first on scene at 5:53 a.m. And then with the second truck driver, it's a little wishy-washy about his timeline because I've read different things and heard different things, and so I can't really nail down exactly when he called 911 and when he showed up. You know, when did he go down to Ryan and turn around? You know, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of wishy-washy with Tyler number 2. But in all honesty, that doesn't matter if Tyler Hardy was first on scene at 5:53 a.m. It all starts right there. Okay, that's when it should start. Okay, at 5:53 a.m. And so Tyler Hardy mentioned something about that him and the other Tyler were on the phone to 911 at the same exact times. Okay, but did they arrive at the exact same times? I don't know. Or did Tyler call first and then a few minutes later? Or I don't know what the timeline is, guys, with the Tyler number 2. Like I say, it's very, very, very wishy-washy. But we're gonna plant our flag into the ground with this right here. It all starts at 5:53 a.m. when Tyler Hardy said he was the first on scene. Okay. So then you go from Tyler Hardy being the first on scene, and whether or not Tyler number 2 was actually there right at 5:53, or if he pulled up a few minutes later or whenever, you know, it, like I say, that's wishy-washy. But Tyler Hardy was there at 5:53, And then he says Jack Newton shows up and kind of explains who Noah was and all of that. Okay, so 5:53, Tyler Hardy's there. Then we don't know the time, but Jack Newton shows up. So that's the only people that's at the scene: Tyler Hardy, Jack Newton, and Tyler number 2 in his semi truck. Okay, and then Noah, of course, deceased on the side of the road. So you go from there to Kaden now saying that he shows up because he followed Jack from the party house back to the crime scene. So Kaden is in his red Jeep Cherokee, and supposedly Mikey, Breland, and Isaac is in there also. And then Kaden gives his story of what happens. But this is just a progression of the timeline. You go from Tyler being there to then the second Tyler being there to then Jack shows up to now Kaden shows up with the other 3 boys. So this is who is all supposedly at the scene now, right? And then it leads to kind of the grand finale. Okay, Tyler Hardy's there, Tyler number 2's there, Jack's there, but now Kaden is gone. Okay, but then the 2 volunteer firefighters show up. Then the time that I have is 6:15 a.m. Okay, and then Under Sheriff Jimmy Williams shows up at 6:18. Okay, so none of these firefighters or the undersheriff, none of them saw Kaden at the scene. Okay, and it's also notable that Tyler Hardy did not see Kaden at the scene either. He didn't see his red Jeep Cherokee. He didn't see Kaden. He didn't see the other 3 boys. But we're just kind of laying it out as it's been presented. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of stop it here on the progression of the timeline, because I mean, as we know, guys, some more stuff happened after 6:18. You know, Zach Wright, the trooper, showed up, and the sheriff Jeremy Wilson shows up, and then Noah's brother Dalen shows up, and then Jack's dad shows up. So we all know that. But what I'm doing here is I am narrowing it down to a certain timeline. Okay, and that timeline is when Tyler Hardy got there at 5:53, and then the firefighters at 6:15, and then the undersheriff at 6:18. Okay, so from 5:53 to when the firefighters showed up at 6:15, that's 22 minutes. Okay, so basically what we have is a 22-minute timeline of Tyler Hardy being there the whole time until Jack shows up, and then the firefighters, and then the undersheriff. Tyler Hardy was the one that was there the whole 22 minutes until the firefighters got there, and then I guess it would be 25 minutes until the undersheriff gets there. So just kind of keep that in mind, guys, okay? But also keep in mind, he says he never saw Kaden. So when thinking about the fact that Tyler Hardy was there the whole time, and he says he never saw Kaden, and then when I'm listening to Kaden's interview with the police, and I'm hearing Kaden give details about the crime scene and stuff that happened, it's bizarre, guys. It makes you scratch your head. But what it does is it proves that Kaden had to have been there. Okay, we just don't know when in the hell he was there, because like I say, the timeline just doesn't support it. Okay, but anyway, so I just want to read this statement, and then I have another one from Kaden also that's straight from his police interview. And the point of it is, it's very, very detailed, and it proves that Kaden was at the scene and he knew a lot about the scene, okay, and just some circumstances. So let's go ahead and read this. So Kaden said, "So we all loaded up in my Jeep and we fly down the road and we see the headlights just sitting on the side of the road. So we suspect that it's there, and Jack was just now pulling up to the scene. So we seen him stop and we get out of the vehicle. The semi was facing towards the party house. And Noah is right here in the service truck, then Jack's truck, then my truck is all facing back towards Duncan. The semi truck was facing back towards the party house with Noah in front of it." Okay, so guys, that is very, very detailed information that proves 100% that Kaden was at that scene and that he knew details about that scene. But I'm left scratching my head about when in the hell he was there. Okay, so let's jump into the next quote by Kaden that'll prove even more that he knows more about the scene. All right, so here's another statement from Kaden, and he says, "His body, he's laying his hips." All right, so I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. So his legs are, he's on his side, right? And his chest is face down towards the ground. And his head is facing towards the grass. So he'd be facing towards not towards the party house, but like that way. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, towards the shoulder, not the road. And his arm, one of his arms was behind his back. And one was like this. He's like giving a demonstration basically. And his legs were like one leg was right here and the other one was like this. And he's giving another demonstration. Okay. So, guys, without a shadow of a doubt, Kaden was at that crime scene. And he even tells the cops that it was still dark. Okay, dark enough to where the semi-truck driver had to have his headlights on. And it was dark and you couldn't really see perfectly out there. So Kaden is admitting through all of these quotes and what he saw that he was there at the crime scene and that when he was there, it was dark. Okay, so now what we're going to try to do here is fill in the blanks of the timeline of everything that we all know from the case, okay? So Tyler Hardy arrived at 5:53 a.m. Okay? So you have to kind of question and wonder, when did Jack arrive? Because it wasn't exactly at 5:53 a.m. because 5:53 a.m. is when he was still at the party house texting his dad about meeting him at the lake. And then he gets in his truck, starts going down the road, and then happens to stumble upon the scene. Supposedly, that's the story. So I've seen different recollections, different stories about the timeline, about when Jack arrived. I've seen that it was 5 minutes later. I've seen that it was 10 minutes later. Let's just assume, okay, that he arrives 5 minutes later. Okay, so Tyler Hardy there at 5:53. Okay, let's say that Jack gets there 5 minutes later. That's kind of where we're going to start. Okay, just so we can get a timeline going here, just so I can show you guys how this window of time starts shrinking big time as you start adding stuff in. Because the story is that Jack comes back to the house and busts in the door and tells everybody Noah's dead, right? So here's the thing, guys. If Tyler Hardy is there at 5:53, and then Jack arrives 5 minutes later, like I say, we'll just use 5 minutes. I don't know. It could be 10, but we'll just, for this video, we'll use 5. So Jack's there at 5:58. Okay. Here's the big problem. Kaden says that Jack comes back to the house. Okay. So does he tell Tyler Hardy, hey, I'll be back? Does he leave Tyler Hardy there and then go back to the party house and then tell everyone what he tells them, and then goes back, and then Kaden follows him down there? I mean, that's the question of the decade, guys. Like, because that has to be the only way. Okay? Because it's going to make Jack look very, very guilty, and there's going to be a lot of red flags. Okay? If Jack did not arrive to the scene and then find out that Noah's deceased and then leave to go back to the party house to let everyone know Noah's deceased and then go back to the scene. But the problem is I've never heard anyone say, I've never heard Tyler Hardy say that Jack was here, then he leaves, then he comes back. Have any of you guys heard that? Because, guys, that's the only possibility. Jack would have to be at the scene to find out Noah's dead. If he really had nothing to do with it and it totally was a surprise, he'd have to be there and then leave back to the party house and then come back. Okay? But the reason that I'm pointing all this out is because that all takes time, guys. Like I said, Tyler Hardy's there at 5:53, and let's say Jack stumbles upon the scene 5 minutes later. You're already at 5:58 a.m. And then he's got to leave and go back to the party house, do what he does, and and then come back. So it's a big red flag already, guys, that there's only 22 minutes from 5:53 to 6:15 a.m. 5:53, Tyler Hardy's there the whole time, and then the volunteer firefighters arrive at 6:15. That's 22 minutes total. So it's already a big red flag that it's such a small window of time. And Kaden claims he was there, but nobody saw him. Okay? You got 22 minutes, and Tyler Hardy never saw him. The volunteer firefighters never saw him. The undersheriff never saw him. So when was he there? So this right here, guys, this just breaks down even further what I just kind of laid out, but I've got times included with it, okay? And this is just going to use the 5-minute time frame. Okay, let's say that so we know Tyler Hardy was there at 5:53 a.m. We know that for a fact. Okay, I mean that's the official story. Nobody knows for a fact until we do satellite imaging and we see. But he made the 911 call at 5:53 a.m. That's been confirmed, and he's telling cops what he sees. So that's the official story that we have to go with. That's the official timeline. 5:53 is pretty much written in stone. That Tyler Hardy was there, and this is where this whole story starts to unfold. 5:53. So we're going to just assume that Jack stumbles upon the scene 5 minutes later. So Jack gets there at 5:58. Okay, we're just going to use that timeline for this video. Okay, it could have been 10 minutes later, but we'll use 5. Okay. like I just explained, Jack would have had to leave the scene to go back to the party house to tell everyone that Noah was dead. Okay, I've already mapped it out on Google. It's a 5-minute drive. If you're just getting in your vehicle from where Noah's body was, driving down to the house, if you're doing the speed limit and all that, and following the laws, turn around and drive back. That's a 5-minute drive. Okay, but you have to account for however long it took Jack to get out of his truck, go in the house, tell everyone that Noah's dead, and I think he told several people, and then get back in his truck and drive back. Okay, so he's at the house. You have to assume at least a full minute, but I'm going to say that that's probably not long enough. A full minute or 2 full minutes at the very minimum. That's how long he would have had to spend at the house, okay, before driving back. So that 5-minute drive now turns into like a 6 or 7 minute drive, or a 6 or 7 minute time frame. Okay, drive down there, spend your minute or two telling everyone, breaking the news, get in your truck, drive back. Okay, so you're looking at Jack getting back to the scene about 6:05 a.m. Okay, so if the volunteer firefighters arrived at 6:15, okay, and this is just using this 5-minute example, guys, that he stumbled upon the scene 5 minutes later. From 6:05 to 6:15, now you only have 10 minutes. So I was talking about this 22-minute time window from 5:53 to 6:15, right? 22 minutes. Okay. Well, not now. Now it's down to like a 10-minute time frame. A 10-minute window where Kaden somehow appeared and saw everything that he saw and try to do what he did with the shop towel. He consoled Isaac, crying. All this supposedly happened in that 10-minute window, okay, under this example. But Tyler Hardy never saw him. The firefighters never saw him. And he still doesn't know who told him to leave. Okay, if that's even true. But let's take the 10-minute scenario, because some people say that Jack arrived 10 minutes after Tyler Hardy got there. So that would put Jack there at 6:03. Okay, and then you add the 7 minutes for when he had to leave and drive to the party house and back. So now you're at 6:10. So from 6:10 to 6:15, Kaden would have had to popped in there magically and assessed the crime scene and saw everything he saw and did what he did with the shop towel or blanket or whatever and console Isaac crying. But nobody ever saw him. So it doesn't matter what the time window is, guys, whether it's a 10-minute time window or whether it's a 5-minute time window. It's not enough time. Okay? It is not enough time, because not only is it a 10-minute or a 5-minute window, whichever example you look at, you already had the volunteer firefighters on their way down the highway. Okay? You had the undersheriff on his way, driving down the highway. Wouldn't they have seen Kaden's vehicle? Wouldn't they have seen him leaving the scene? But they didn't. Okay? And last but not least, Tyler Hardy never saw him there. So something is not adding up, guys, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but the timeline itself, it makes it almost impossible. I mean, unless he has, you're looking at a situation where Kaden would have had to have the most perfect timing in history to have drove there, gotten out, did everything he did, and left with nobody seeing him. Not Tyler Hardy, not the firefighters, not the undersheriff, not any passerbys, like citizens driving cars. Nobody saw Kaden there. Okay? And the window of time doesn't allow for him to be there. Unless he has the most perfect timing in the world. Like, he would have had to known what time law enforcement and the firefighters were going to be there, so that he could pop in and out to avoid them. So how is that possible, guys? How can you do that? You can't. But the problem is, Kaden has proven that he was there with everything that he knows. But I just don't think that he was there during this time frame between 5:53 and 6:15. I don't think that's when he was there, guys. And it couldn't have been after, because it would have been daylight. And he says he was there during the dark. So something very sinister is going on here, guys. And I don't know if Jack's in on the cover-up. Okay, I don't know if Kaden was trying to use, what knowledge that he gathered from elsewhere, or if he saw Noah's body there before 5:53 or something. But he knows everything about that crime scene and how Noah's body was, but it doesn't add up. Okay, especially when Tyler Hardy never saw him there. So this is just to end the video here with the timeline that you can see visually, so it kind of all makes sense for you. This is using the 5-minute timeline of Jack arriving 5 minutes after Tyler Hardy. Okay, and like I say, it could have been 10 minutes, but we'll just go with 5. So once again, 5:53, Tyler Hardy arrives, and we'll say Jack arrives at 5:58, and then he would have had to leave to go back to the party house to tell everyone Noah's dead, and then drive back. So I'm putting that around 6:05. He's back. Okay, and then you jump to 6:15 when the firefighters arrive. So you have this 10-minute window in between that Kaden is claiming he was there. It's a 10-minute window, guys. And really, it's not a full 10 minutes, because, like I just said, as the firefighters are pulling up, they would have seen Kaden leaving. So you shrink that 10 minutes to what? Now you're down to 8 or 7 minutes, because he would have been out of there and long gone down the road 2 or 3 minutes before the firefighters arrived. Guys, I'm not buying it. It's not adding up. It's not making sense. This would have had to been the most perfect timing on the planet for everyone to have missed Kaden being there in this short time window. And I don't think it happened. But the problem is, Kaden gave his statements where he followed Jack down the road to the crime scene. Kaden knew that a semi truck was there, which was Tyler number 2. That's correct. He knew that Tyler Hardy was there in his service truck. That's correct. He knew that Jack in his white truck was there. That's correct. He knew the position of how the vehicles were parked. That's all correct. He knew where Noah's body was, what side of the road. He knew the positioning of Noah's body, the head towards Duncan, feet back towards Terrell. He knew the positioning of the arms and the legs, and he was even showing police. But the question is, when in the hell was he there? Because it doesn't make sense for him to be there in that 22-minute time window, especially when that window shrinks down to less than half. If Jack's story is true, where he arrived and then went back to the party house and came back and Kaden followed him, we're looking at 5 to 7 to 8 minutes. And it just, I'm not buying it, guys. It is not making sense. It doesn't add up. So my thing is that Kaden must have had to have been there before 5:53. Okay? And if he was there, then that means that he has other knowledge about what really happened to Noah and how his body got there. If not, then I need him to explain, when in the hell were you there when you said that Jack and Tyler Hardy and Tyler number 2 was there, when Tyler Hardy never even saw you? When were you there, Kaden? Can you explain that? So guys, I'll leave y'all with that. What do y'all think? When was Kaden there? Okay, so if we can figure that out, and how he knows so many details about the crime scene, then it may lead to cracking this case, because he either knows how Noah died, or he knows who covered it up, or he could have been involved. It's one of those three. He knows something, because he told law enforcement everything he knew, and it matched the scene. So how does he know it when the timeline doesn't support it? So let me know what y'all think, guys. I'll talk to you later.